Do you get frustrated when things aren't going exactly the way that you want them to?
On today's show, we're going to be talking about patience and our experience with that. It's Awaken Your Spirit. Stay tuned.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Awakening Your Spirit. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Aaron Garcia.
And I'm Veronica Mendez Garcia. And our show's about inspiration, motivation, and developing the mindset to live a happy and abundant life.
We're live here on this show every week on Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern. If you guys would like to join us here on the show, you can turn on that live notification button here in the feed if you're watching on Facebook. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that little bell icon so you always know when we have a new video that's posted. So today, we're going to have a lot of patience today in our experiences. So we're very excited to be sharing our experiences with you guys, and we're going to have a lot of fun. But before we get into our topic of today, we always like to start off with our first segment of our show with our inspirational moment with Veronica.
So inspirational moments is when I like to read something inspirational. And today I'm going to read a little bit from this book. It's called Leadership Lessons of Abraham Lincoln. And it says strategies, advice, and words of wisdom on leadership, responsibility, and power. And there's the book. Let's see what it says. All right. So this, what I'm reading, this was a speech at the Republican banquet in Chicago, December 10th, 1856. It says, "We can do it. The human heart is with us. God is with us. We shall again be able not to declare that all states as equal are equal, nor yet that all citizens as citizens are equal, but to renew the broader, better declaration, including both these and much more, that all men are created equal." And again, this was the speech from Abraham Lincoln at the Republican banquet in Chicago, December 10th, 1856. So it's interesting, you know, with his statement that that he made way back when, and you know, especially with everything going on nowadays, it's like that's something that we need to remember, that we are all equal, regardless of race, regardless of religion, regardless of how much money we all have in the bank account, or how much, you know, lack of money we have.
Status, everything.
Yeah. So it's like, just remember that we are all equal. No one's above you. No one's below you. We're all equal.
Absolutely. Because we all have the exact same power, free will, free choice to do whatever it is that we want to do. So everybody's on their own individual path, but we all we're all the same in some way, in a way, because we are all spirit. We all have the same given power and ability to do what we want to do in our life.
And that's why we have to remember everyone's on their own journey, and it doesn't matter like where they're at. It's like they are where they are right now. And some people feel like, well, they should be doing this by now. They're already this, you know, you should be married by now. You're 30, or you know how, you know, people, or society will say things and that it has to be a certain way, but we're all on our own journey, and you know, we are where we are, and that's okay. Yeah. And that's why we have to be patient with people. Segue to our topic of the day.
So if you guys enjoyed the inspirational moment for today, make sure you give us some hearts, some likes here into the feed. If you know that there's anybody that can benefit from the message of this show, feel free to tag them here into the comment feed and share this on your timeline, because we never know who this message is going to impact. So today, we're talking about patience.
Patience. So isn't that the lady at the bank?
It's funny. There was a lady at a previous bank that we used to go to. Her name was Patience. Yeah. And it was funny because sometimes
she would lose her patience.
She would lose her patience, and it was very interesting to see. But I think part of that is it's been something that we have been working with for such a long time. Now, I always considered myself to be a very patient person, and I was thinking about this earlier. And there's different areas or different things that there might be some areas that we're very patient with, and there could be
True.
other things that we are very impatient with. And so I would be that type of person where, let's say, where you're in a grocery line, and there's that person, the line's long, and that one person that's at the cash register, and they're taking their time, or something's going much slower than it needs to be. And I always found I was always pretty patient with that. It just is what it is. They just stand there and it'll get done. But you could see other people that would get very frustrated and, is there another register open? Or they start getting upset because it's not moving fast enough. And it always moves the way it's supposed to move. And I always find myself very patient. But I do also know that there's other areas that I have less patience for, especially when things may not be happening as quickly as I want them to. And part of this learning lesson between both of us, and maybe with you guys as well, is we have to learn to practice patience in everything.
Yeah, because our whole life, it's really about being patient with people, with animals, with our job, with things that we do, and even with stuff that's happening around the world. It's like, okay, when do we stop wearing these masks, or when do we stop having to wait outside the store in order to come in?
Yeah.
It just depends on the situation. But like you said, we can have patience in certain areas, and in other areas it's like you want it to go fast.
So before we continue, just want to say hello to a few people that are joining with us. Jan McCluskey says aloha.
Hey, Dan.
He says, what a tremendous opening.
No, thank you.
Thank you very, very much. He also says, I'm glad you read that today, Veronica. My landlord has lots of money and recently has tried to shame me with criticism. These narcissists are damaged by trauma and try to punch people where they hurt.
With their hurt. Yeah, it's like what we talk about when they project on other people because of what they're holding on to and all that stuff that that they haven't let go. So they they feel the need to project on others.
And he says, I was patient. I got so angry when he asked me what I meant by I'll take care of it, when he wanted to come in and fix my drapes. He thinks I'm not capable. I'm an honor student, 7-time Ironman in Navy CB, can do. And so, and this is what we're talking about is patience. Is when you're patient, we feel calm. We feel at peace. It's like everything is what it is. But when we lose our patience, what does that do? How do we feel? We get bothered. We might get frustrated, angry, as you were saying, Dan, because maybe people aren't seeing things the way we want them to, or things aren't moving as fast enough. But what that happens with that, it just creates a lot of internal suffering on our part. And I know this from experience, because all it does, it create when you're feeling anger or frustrated or sad or something's not moving along, it's like the turmoil that it creates on the inside, and it messes your whole entire mental state.
Yeah, and it's like the way you feel on the inside, like you feel different, like it disturbs your insides, like the chemistry in your body will change, and you're no longer calm and at peace. You're disturbed on the inside when you lose your patience, and now you feel like your blood's boiling, or depending on your level of either frustration, anger, or whatever it is. But when you lose your patience, it's not good for your body. But I think sometimes when, like how you responded, like, oh, I'll take care of it, sometimes people expect you to respond or react in a certain way, and when they don't get that response, then it could set them off, and depending on on their past experiences as well. But it's kind of like a back and forth, like how are you going to respond or react to what others tell you, or how they react to you. So when he reacted out of like anger or whatever it was, then like how does that make you feel, and how do you feel on the inside in regards to that?
Yeah, and the concept is, how can we all stay calm and peaceful regardless of what else is going on around us, what other people are saying, what they're doing, what they're thinking? And it's like, if we're allowing the outside world to disturb our inner peace, well, then that's something with us in each of us that we need to work on, because what does that represent to us? Why do we feel that way if someone says something or someone's doing something or things aren't moving fast enough? There's a reason why we get bothered by that. If we can go deeper and explore what that is, we can help to uproot that and heal from that, because it's usually based on a perception, a belief system, a past experience that keeps getting re-triggered. And when we are able to identify that, then we can heal. Then we can learn to let go. And that's how we can practice patience better. It's one thing trying to, be mindful of what we're doing, what we're saying, what we're thinking. But if we feel it on the inside, maybe we don't say anything and we think we're practicing patience, but we're just not verbalizing anything, but we're bothered and upset on the inside. Maybe your mind has a conversation going on ahead. Here's what I would say, or here's what I would do. And you find yourself getting bothered by that. That still is the opposite of patience, because again, what is that doing to your internal world? It's making you feel uneasy. It's not making you feel very good. So we have to learn to breathe through those situations. And when those situations come up again and we feel calmer, we know we're getting better at this, but it's a practice.
Yeah, it is a practice. And, the main thing is taking care of you, because the other person doesn't really know what's going on the inside. Like you mentioned, you could be like, maybe not even say anything, but you're feeling disrupted on the inside. And that's still just as bad, because it's still disrupting your inner peace. And that is something that we have to learn. But it's a good thing when this happens, because now like there's still something here that I need to, address or work on. And it's like having patience with other people, learning to respond versus react. But if you didn't react and you stayed quiet, it's still a good thing, because now you know that it's still bothering you. So you learn to maybe not lash out back, but that uncomfortable feeling that it still maybe makes you upset. That's still something that that we need to work on, and it's a practice. And don't beat yourself up for for not being able to do that right away, because everything takes practice.
Yeah. So he's saying, I'm learning these sociopaths and psychopaths, even in a book, has come out by the Trump family. Can you talk about these sociopaths? Well,
I don't even know what book came out about the Trump family, to be honest.
We don't really know. But, if we're going to label people, and that's the thing, what is considered a true sociopath by definition, and has that been diagnosed? Even you can say from like narcissist, and are we projecting on people because maybe something that they're doing, and are you labeling them because of something they're doing that you don't agree with? So that's the one thing I want you to pay attention to, because again, when we call people something, that's coming out of a state of anger, and it's like, oh, that's so and so, or this and that. So again, the emotions coming out. So we take a breath and look at, okay, well, what's going on within that person? And one thing that's helped me dealing with other people is, regardless of what they're doing, you can watch it on TV. There's people out there that do really bad things. Let's just, let's agree on that. That does happen. There's some mean people. There's very kind and very loving people. But the ones that are doing the harm to others or society, they weren't born that way. Yeah, everybody was born in a more loving, feeling. But over time, they were conditioned by their environment, by parenting, that were things that were said to them, how they were taught from school teachers. And you understand that somewhere in them is that spark of light. There's that good that's within them. But somewhere along the lines, they lost that path, and that's how people become conditioned. That's how our belief systems, our behaviors, and our attitudes are developed. And some have been brutally damaged at a young age.
Yeah, actually, the people are born with certain traits, because like if you're being developed in the womb, and then you're feeling mom, and maybe you're sensitive to dad's energy. You're being developed in this environment where it's already there before you're even born. So in a sense, it kind of starts way before, like the conditioning and all that you mentioned. because like you can be born, maybe like say your mom and dad, maybe they didn't want kids, and they said it, and they kept talking about it. Like, I didn't really want kids, but I had an oops, or, you hear people say that. So what is that doing to the unborn baby, and like the feelings that come with that? Like, are they feeling like, oh, nobody wants me? So there's different ways that things, where they start. And I think it starts way before, people are even born, or babies are born.
And so unless these other people are willing to change, yes, I'm going to work on myself, I'm going to be better, then we have to let them be who they are. We're talking about practicing patience. And no matter what they do, the biggest thing is not to focus on what they're doing, it's to focus on how you react to that. And that's where patience comes in. Is regardless if someone seems like they might be attacking or saying things, whether to you or other people, is can you be calm? Now that doesn't mean that you don't take a stand if it's necessary. So some people might think that's, oh, you're showing weakness if you do that, or you're not standing up for yourself. That's not what I'm saying. So if there's a time where sometimes if we get upset, we can use that energy for a good thing. So if there's people that are doing something bad in the world and you get upset with that, okay, what do you do with that anger? And some people will actually use that for good. They might start a cause. They'll stand up for something and help to create change in the world. And that's how you use that, rather than lashing out and attacking, which only it fuels the fire. So what do you do with that? And so if I go here, Dan is saying, my sacred space is threatened. Standing up to authority figures is important. So yeah, so you can stand up. It's like not just talking about abuse. I was told no response.
Or taking abuse.
It's like not just taking abuse. I was told no response is response. He wrote me a note. What did you mean by I'll take care of it? That is crazy to me, I learned. And so here's another thing too, is miscommunication.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Then go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, because sometimes when people maybe don't quite understand certain things, like you'll say something and it's like, well, what did he mean by that? So if you told them, oh, I'll take care of it, I'm not sure the whole situation with the drapes, if they were, if they were broken, if they were, something happened to them, but like, were you going to buy new ones and put them up, or did they fall down and you just had to put them up? Or, it's that the miscommunication where maybe he didn't understand the whole thing. So like, were you going to pay for something where you needed to get reimbursed? So maybe he wanted to clarify, well, what did you mean by I'll take care of it? Are you going to pay for something and then he can reimburse you, or were you just going to fix something? So it's sometimes it's good to ask questions to get clarification. And I don't know the tone of his voice and how he said it, but that has a lot to do with it too. If he said it in a certain way, like maybe angry, like it just depends. I don't know the entire situation.
Yeah. And so when we talk about miscommunication, this is where a lot of conflict starts, because if we just assume that people know what we're talking about, then we can miss the boat. One of our good friends, Martin Lopez, he came up with this concept called the curiosity theory. He wrote a book about it, has a program on this too. And he taught us a lot with this, because, our minds will just make things up, and a lot of things go vague, and we misinterpret a lot of information from society, other people. And if we don't have all the information, then we tend to make things up. And what he talks about is learning how to just be curious. I mean, like, I'm curious. What did you mean by I'll take care of that? Because I just want to make sure I got that. I understood that. So that way I don't make something up in my head that was not true for you. And when I get your definition of what that means, then it helps me. And I'm like, oh, okay. Then we can come up with better solutions and better agreements. But if things are left very vague or misunderstood, then that's where conflict happens. Someone can say something and you took it in this way, but that's not what they meant in their own thought process. What did you mean by that? Well, I meant it this way. Oh, and then when we have that conversation, a lot of the tension will go away.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then it kind of clears the air of like what one person meant, and maybe they didn't understand the whole thing. So it's like, oh, okay, I get it. So you're gonna buy new drapes, and then, oh, would you like me to reimburse you? I don't know if that was the situation, but sometimes it can clear the miscommunication, like Aaron mentioned.
Yeah. So the concept is, we're talking about patience, is even when you're with other people, is whatever you're feeling is right now, is what if you're feeling upset, is to take that breath and just allow yourself to feel that emotion and breathe to that until you can calm down. Because the worst thing you can do is communicate with other people when you're in that type of a state. Because the tone, again, you said the tone of the voice, your energy is going to come off like you're being very defensive and nothing gets done, and it creates more tension. And it's like that downward spiral. Everything just seems to go in a circle. And so when you learn to calm your own emotions and relax a bit, that's practicing that sense of patience. And that's patience when you're dealing with other people. Now, there's also sense of patience when we're also dealing towards our goals and our ambitions and our dreams. Is, sometimes when we have a big goal, that might take time for it to manifest into fruition. And can we be patient that it's not happening right now? I did this thing and I don't see results in the next week, and now I'm frustrated, upset about that. Can we be patient just to move forward until that happens? Big lesson for me I've been learning.
Yeah, we all, can practice patience every once in a while. And but it's good when things like this arise, because now we know, like, oh, like I need to be more mindful or practice my patience, and with others or with myself. And you mentioned business or goals, working towards goals. Like sometimes we're not even patient with ourselves. Like we lose our patience because maybe you didn't do something on time, or you had a set schedule where you were supposed to finish something and you didn't. And then now you're losing your patience because you're trying to get it done. But, things get done when they get done.
And the thing is, like, why? Right. And that's always a question. I'm always doing introspection, self-analysis, is if I'm bothered by something, or if I find myself losing patience in some way, it's like, why do I feel this way? Why am I choosing to feel this way? And because it represents something in some way, shape, or form. And so when we look and identify, why do I feel this way? Ask that question, you'll find an answer. And because, well, if it's not moving fast enough, that means that, for some people right now with this whole COVID situation, especially back in March when this all first started and everything started to shut down, at least here in the US. And I can see a lot of people, getting flustered. What am I going to do to pay my rent? I have a family, my job, I can't go to work right now. What do I do? And you can see there's a lot of people that were losing their patience. There was a lot of hostility, even in the grocery stores, because things are changing. And sometimes those are the best times to really practice it, because here's an even better example, the toilet paper issue. I mean, people started to get almost panicky because there was no toilet paper in the stores. Remember that 2-week period? It wasn't months. It was only like a 2-week period, but at least that first week, it was very frustrating for a lot of people. Now, when we looked at it, because we've been working on this stuff on ourselves, is it's going to come back, because we understood something, and that there's an abundance of supply, especially if there's a high demand. There's going to be more supply, so there's no shortage. It's just in that period, there wasn't enough.
Yeah,
and we realized, like, after 2 weeks, everything went back to normal again.
In some areas, I think it was still, delayed, but it came back, and everything's, well, as far as the toilet paper issue, it's fine.
But what do we do? We learn to conserve. We learn to say, hey, it is what it is. Let's do the best, because we understand that there's a lot of changes going on. But we learn to breathe through that. But there's a lot of people that let it really just mess with their whole internal world. And then what kind of issues does that create in their life, with relationships with other people outside? And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So let's go here just real quick. Gil Solis is joining us. Welcome, Gil. He says, how can I get noticed of when you do come out? So
I'm not understanding that.
So I just want to make sure, if you're still on here, Gil, are you talking about getting noticed for when we go live here on the show? Or is it something in a personal setting? Just because I want to make sure that I understand what you're saying here. So this is what we talked about earlier. I want to know what you mean, so that I can give you the right answer. Because if I just make that up, I could give you the wrong answer that you might not be looking for. So,
and then this is what we were talking about clarifying, like,
Yeah.
Could you explain that? Like, we're not exactly sure what you mean by that.
and especially sometimes, we're here live, and there's people either watching live or watching on the replay, and you'll put a comment here into the feed. And this is where also when like text messaging or emails can get miscommunicated, because again, if you're not having the emotion, or if it's in a short sentence, you're not really getting the full meaning behind everything. And sometimes we need a lot of clarification to help us understand. Otherwise, we start to lose our patience and get flustered.
Yeah. And so let's see. Dan says there was just a small rip that he had patched before I moved in. I just needed to get some sewing tape. It's not rocket science. His house needs so much work, and I have seen a rat by my patio. Why doesn't he work on his problems? Oh, okay. So there's like fixing up to do. So it I guess there's like a little rip or something in there. Okay.
Yeah, so there's tenant issues. So here's another thing. If we're talking about like a tenant or a renter, and so if you find that you're having a lot of issues there, well, here's one concept. It's not the only one, but it's one concept is wherever we are, we choose to be in those situations. And if someone's not willing to change, because we can't force other people to change.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, there are certain rights and things that should be done, but if someone's unwilling to do that, then you can always make that decision. Do I choose to stay, or should I go somewhere else that's a better environment for me? And so we always have to put responsibility back on ourselves, because we choose to react in certain ways. We choose to be in the places that we're at. We choose our work environment. We choose the people in our life. We get to choose. And if that is something that is really bothering you, then you can make a decision. Do I choose to stay, or do I choose to go? But that's a decision that you have to come up with.
Yeah. And I think he might have mentioned that here. Let's see.
It says, breathe, but so afraid of another attack. He always seems angry when he is around, like he has too much responsibility. Breathe, but maybe start to look for my healthy living space and happy artistic people.
Yeah.
He told me once his motto is revenge at people who hurt him in his work life.
Okay.
So that's how people react.
Yeah.
To me, I have to forgive. Some people are just living. I'm not going to get them back. Not good for me.
Yeah. So right there, he told you that he's a revengeful person. So if someone does something to hurt him, or maybe stir him up, then he'd want to get revenge. So that's it's probably not the best environment for you, especially if you're looking for more peace and calmness. And so it's like you probably already know what your decision is there on that one.
But also think too is in your interactions with him over this period of time, how have you responded back to him? Does something show up from his perception as anger or defensiveness? And so if he's picking that up and he's a vengeful type of a person, at least as you're saying here, then that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so we have to be mindful of how we respond to other people when they do things, because if we respond back in anger, we're going to get it right back. And it's like the battle who's going to win, rather than being calm, patient, allowing people to be, but not allow it to disturb your inner peace.
Yeah.
But this is a great, this is here for a reason for you, Dan. And because we always look at, there's a learning lesson here, and he's there to help you train. You're a triathlete. And so you train for your swimming, your biking, and your running. And sometimes you have to train hard to prepare you for the events that you're going to, your Ironmans. And so imagine this landlord is the perfect training partner for you to teach you how to deal with your emotions. If you find you still get ruffled up by things, there's still more to learn.
Yeah.
And so it's like, this is the best person in the best situation for you to really practice this, to let you know, am I making progress? And you'll know that based on how calm you are and how often you are calm and peaceful.
Yeah. So let's see. There's another comment. He says, I guess it's good to know where people's deep belief systems lie. I want to be around people who practice the secret or new thought mentality. Yeah, and put that out there. So next time, if you're truly unhappy where you're at, put that out there of the environment you want to be in. Because sometimes we'll focus on like, oh, I want this and this, but then we forget the environment around us, like what's outside of the place where we live. And like the inside could be perfect, like what you asked for, what you wanted, but then the outside environment might not be what you wanted. So it's like you can clarify that.
So one of the things that help with the patience concept is focus on what it is that you want to see, the area that you want to be in. So this is for everybody. It's like whatever it is you want to attract. Maybe you want a different environment. Maybe you're looking to change a career. Maybe you're looking to attract more of a relationship. Whatever that is one, we have to be okay and accept where we are right now today. Okay, whatever's going on in our life today, the results we're getting, that's just what it is. We don't get to change that in this moment. But what we can change is our choice that we're going to make a difference today. We're going to move forward. And we need to just visualize and focus on what we want rather than focus on all the things that are going wrong. Because the more you focus on something that's going wrong, the things you don't like, you're just going to see more of that in your experience. And you're going to attract more of that. So focus on what you do want and then just see yourself there and keep that thought. Even if you don't see it in the moment and you get frustrated, again, that's a lack of patience. So keep seeing what you want to see and just allow it to show up when it's supposed to show up, because it will show up at the exact right time for you.
Yeah, for sure. And then Dan says, okay, hugs. Okay, I'm going to grow. And if I need to move, okay, no stopping now. Yeah. And you can, play it by ear and try those new techniques and see how it goes. And you might get a different perspective of him. But if you really feel like he's kind of interrupting your, inner peace, and, you can work on it. But if there's still, kind of chaos around your environment, then you can choose to find a new place that you feel at peace in, on the inside, but also your outside environment.
Mm-hmm. And he says, I've held my tongue, but he says you're angry. I don't say your anger. I don't take his inventory. He takes mine. I guess I have to not take it personal. Yeah. And that's the thing, because he could be like this to everybody. Mm-hmm. And you might say, oh, he might be personally attacking you. Maybe not. He could be like that to everybody. You're just in the line of fire. Mm-hmm. And so when you learn, that's a big thing, not to take things so personal. It's just something that's going on within their inner world. You don't know what his experience is like. You don't know what he's going through, how he's feeling on the inside, and why he gets upset with things until they actually tell us and we understand exactly what's going on with them. We have no idea, and we make it up, and we just think, oh, they're just being insensitive, they're this, they're that. But you don't understand the suffering that might be going on the inside that creates bitterness, that creates anger. And when we can learn to see that, it changes our whole perspective around people. Mm-hmm. And I've practiced this quite a bit. And, I don't get as angry with people as much, or frustrated or annoyed with people as much as I used to in the past, because I've been training myself to look at them from a different perspective, because I don't like because all that does, it makes me feel bad if I'm upset with something. Mm-hmm. And it throws everything off in my life. And so, but it's my choice to react to other people, because we might think, oh, they made me feel this, they made me feel this way. No, you chose to react to that person because of what's going on within you, but we can change that.
Yeah. And then Dan says, yes, I guess I wasn't thinking about the type of person I wanted in a landlord. More work, like you said, me, I won't quit. I got to roll my sleeves up and practice the 4 agreements again. Yeah. And it's just working on ourselves, and it's like training ourselves to, to be more calm and peaceful when things like that happen. And it's an ongoing thing. And just like the monks train to, to be more peaceful, like you see them at peace most of the time, but it's a daily thing that they even say that they have to work on daily.
Absolutely. And you brought up a good point, Dan, because you said, I guess I wasn't thinking about the type of landlord that I wanted. And so this is a lesson for all of us is there's a lot of goals that we say we want. We want these things in our life, but did we fully clarify exactly what it was going to look like? Because we are all powerful manifestors, whether we know it or not, we are. We manifest exactly everything that we think and dwell on a day-to-day basis. And so we attract things into our life, but then we say, well, this isn't exactly what I wanted, but it was exactly what you wanted. You just didn't specify. Or sometimes things will show up in our life that it's not what you maybe you envision fully, but exactly what you asked for. And so when these things happen, or why maybe you're focused on, I just need a place.
Yeah.
I'll take anything right now. So you find a place, but then the landlord's not the best person in the world or the best landlord. And when you said I need to find a place, there was maybe nothing in there that said anything about who the landlord is and what they're going to be like. So now when you get to go to your next place, you're going to add that into the contract.
Yeah.
I want a nice, peaceful, quiet landlord that respects me. You put that out there because now you know more of what you want. And so these things happen for a reason. They're there to teach you.
And also focus on what you want versus I don't want this and I don't want that, because by saying those statements, it's like you're putting too much energy in that. So focus on the things you do want. And and we have to repeat this over and over because that's how it's like, okay, yeah, like focus on what we want, focus on what we want. And it gets ingrained more because we're conditioned to focus on negativity, like the news, even our parents, like how we were brought up, school and things like that. But by focusing on the things we do want, you're putting more energy into that versus all the other stuff you don't want.
Yeah. And then when we realize that we get to choose, that we get to create you're probably experiencing this right now. And I'm talking to you, Dan, because we're having a conversation with you. But if there's any other person that's watching right now that's live or on the replay, there's something going on within you, you can type that here in the comment feed if you have a question. But I think we all can relate to this experience. And it's like when we get a different perspective, it's like that bit of that weight that just like comes off of our shoulders. We feel a little more like, oh, wow, I can create that. We start to feel a little better on the inside, realize that we get to create. And now think about, and I want you to pay attention, is notice how you feel in this moment compared to how you felt about 5 minutes ago. And if you're starting to feel a little bit better, think about how quickly that happened. Almost in an instant, when you got a different perspective on something, your whole attitude and your mood changes, which means your energy shifts.
Yeah.
And we get to choose to do that there's tools. We're not stuck with feeling angry, upset all the time. It's what's going on in our mind. But again, our mind will tend to make things up until we see things in a different way.
Yeah. And your perspective can change, from one moment to the next, based on maybe someone was able to clarify something for you, or they gave you a different point of view where now you're like, oh, like I don't really feel that anymore because I can see that, this and this happened. So it's really changing your perspective on things, and maybe where you're at, maybe you've been asking for more growth, maybe more spiritual growth. And this is the perfect place for that, because spiritual growth isn't necessarily going to be like all nice and happy all the time, because in your spiritual growth, you get these types of challenges because it teaches you how to work around those challenges, how to work through it actually. And that helps your spirit to grow, because then it's like, okay, I need to learn how to work through this. And then once you work through it, everything else becomes easier. And when you're faced with that same or similar type of challenge, now you know how to work through it and it becomes easier. And then the next challenge will come up and we work through that, and then things they're easier, and it teaches us patience, and it teaches us, maybe not to lash out at other people.
Yeah. And then just the practice of patience and actually doing that. And you have to make a conscious decision. I'm going to work on being more patient, and you turn that into a goal, and I'm going to be more patient. So, and you might say, well, there's a lot of things I need to be patient with. Pick one. Okay, if it's patience with a single person or people, if it's patience in your goals or your desires, if it's patience in your work environment, whatever that might be, is pick one and decide, I'm going to practice on being patient. What can I do? I'm going to take a breath. So if we're talking with you, Dan, and you're talking about your landlord, let's use him as the test. You know, the next thing we're going to work on. And so the next time you get to have an interaction, you get to choose and decide ahead of time, here's how I'm going to react the next time I see this person. Even if he says something, maybe it's in a state of anger, you get to choose ahead of time. Even if he does do this, here's how I'm going to respond, and here's how I'm going to feel, here's what I'm going to practice. And if you start to find yourself getting flustered with something, have a plan for how you're going to deal with that. Because if you can get out of that frustration state as soon as possible, that's when you know you're making progress. Mm-hmm. And your progress will let you know based on, wow, I used to get very angry when I would talk to that person. But now when I talk to him, even when he does the same thing, it doesn't bother me as much. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it bothers me, but not as intense and not as long. So use those as your guidance to let you know that you're making progress.
Yeah, and also when you think about like the times where you did get angry and lash out at people, or maybe you didn't lash out, but you still felt the anger on the inside, think about what that's doing to you. And if you can understand that it's not good for your health, because it's it's changing all your body chemistry and it actually puts out toxins. Now it's like, whoa, like I'm not going to allow somebody else to dictate how I'm feeling on the inside, or I'm not going to allow that person to change my inner peace. And it's like looking at them from a different perspective. Like they're doing that, they're lashing out, but it has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm. And so that's the key. And so Dan says, yes, you are helping me heal right now. Awesome. His priorities are outward. I want inward priorities and health above material stuff.
Yeah.
So this is your test. So keep working with that. You're making a lot of progress, Dan. I know you are, but keep working with it, because it's always a work in progress. And just use that as a test and just say, wow, this is my training ground, and this is where I get to practice. And when I can be better with this person, I know I can be better with more people and other people. And then that's in the place where you can now start to attract exactly what it is that you want, because now this is not affecting you as much as it used to. Yeah. And it's not on your consciousness. So we have Eric Swanson joining with us.
Eric.
He says, thanks for being both of you. Thank you. Thank you. He also says patience is one of our 5 pillars of the Habitude Warrior.
Yep.
And because it's so important.
It is.
Dan says, I hope I can find someone with fairly similar priorities spiritually and health, for sure, above the material world.
And you will, put it out there, and, keep in that good energy, like keep your vibration high, and just keep putting it out there, and, you'll get there, because I know you can do that, because I know you're a great manifester.
Eric says, responding in awesome rather than reacting in haste. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. In fact, we had the opportunity to have lunch with Eric a few weeks ago, and this is a great example. So we're at this coffee place, and we're having a great conversation, and at the counter there was a little bit of an issue going on, and because we weren't paying attention, we were just having our conversation. And one of the employees was having an issue with one of the customers that walked up to the register. And the concept was, and we all understand this now, when you walk into a place, the rules are, especially here in California, in San Diego, you have to have a mask on when you go into any place, a grocery store or place. And I think the gentleman maybe had his mask like halfway down or something. Not sure, because I didn't look.
It wasn't fully on. It was kind of down. And I think they asked him to, if you can put your mask up.
Yeah, but the guy reacted by, I'm assuming, the way the guy responded or told him to put his mask on. And I was thinking about this afterwards, like, what is a good way to tell people to put their mask on and being like polite without sounding like you have to do this? Because the guy took it in a very negative way, and they had a little bit of an argument, and he walked out and he gave him the finger and walked away. Now, what happens? The guy's upset. He doesn't get his coffee. And so who really lost out?
Yeah.
Or the better way to respond to that would have been, oh, sorry, yes, I saw this the sign that was on the door before I walked in. Just put the mask up. Here's what I'd like to order.
Yeah, and we don't know the full story. He could have been having a bad day already, and then just the person said, "Could you please put your mask on?" And that set him off. Like we really don't know the entire story, but
that's an important point. Is
mhm.
when there's things going on around in our environment, our society, we don't know all the details, and so until we do our own research and really talk to each person and get the facts, people tend to make things up in their own mind based on the limited information that they have, because our mind is always trying to make sense of things. And so if we don't have all the information, the facts, we're going to make it up. Well, this happened, so this must have been the way what happened. And that's how a lot of conflict happens, because there's a lot of misunderstanding.
Our mind is so, creative in these stories that we create in our own mind.
Yeah, that's what Eric says. Yeah, but we got a story now. So we can Hollywood version this story and say what happened. Again, the guy robbed him the night before, and he came across him.
Revenge.
Yeah, and then wanted to get back at him. But that's how it can happen, right? People will make things up, and so until you know what the truth is, just be mindful of what we're hearing, what's going on around us, because that can dictate a lot of our moods and our belief systems, and that's where we tend to challenge a lot of things. Is this absolutely true? And when we find that it's not, then we can change our belief about certain things, and then we can relax a bit more. And Dan says, so are those triggers when you say bothered? And I think some people are bullies or sadistic, and they literally are having fun on me.
So when you get bothered, you mean, is that a trigger? I think that's what he means. So if he gets bothered by something.
Yeah. So again, we're trying to understand the meaning of what you're saying here, because it is through a response chat. So are those triggers when you say bothered?
Like when you get bothered, is that considered a trigger?
So clarify that first question for us, Dan. But the second part to what you're saying here is, and we mentioned this earlier, yes, there are some, excuse me, there are people that will do things for the fun of it. They bully, they try to attack. We see people that will sue people just for the fun of it, just to make money. They know that, and they do it because they learn to earn money. So the biggest thing is, you learn to work on with you. Allow them to be who they are. If you have to stand up for yourself and defend when it's necessary, you can do that. Stay strong. But unless you're in a threatening position, you can learn to walk away and just work in your own internal process and let them be who they are, because they're going to create their own internal suffering and their own issues in their life, and you have no control over that. And if we're trying to say, well, they need to change, they need to do this, you're going to create a lot of frustration, and which is the opposite of patience.
Yeah. So if you really feel like your environment isn't a healthy environment for you, if it's toxic and you feel like, it's creating too much chaos, then, you can look somewhere else for a new place and put it out there, specify your landlord, like how you want your environment to be, but also the inside.
Yeah. Eric says people tend to be triggers for people too.
Yeah.
We get triggered by so many things, and we can get triggered just by the way someone looks. We can get triggered by smells. We can get triggered by certain words or phrases that others might use.
Even times of the year, like dates, certain days, like December, November, it just depends. Sometimes because this happened to me in November is when my dad passed away in 2008. And I didn't know that I was being triggered, but it was around November time, and
you and your family too. You guys would, you would be like,
I felt just down,
in a down mood,
and I didn't know why. And so we checked it, and it showed up that it was because it was around the time when my father passed away. So that went unconscious because I wasn't aware. I guess at the time, it just subconsciously, I remembered, but it brought up those emotions of sadness and things like that. And I asked Aaron, can you check me? Because I'm not sure what, why I'm feeling sad. I'm just feeling sad. But there wasn't something that happened that cause me to feel sad
in that moment.
In that moment, yeah.
But our subconscious mind learns to associate.
Yeah.
And we have, especially when there's significant emotional events in our life, and we don't learn how to process those, then what happens is those get ingrained and stuck into our nervous system. And now when we get, again, triggered, something shows up that resembles that, our nervous system goes into reaction mode. And what's interesting is your whole body will start to respond in the exact same way as if you're reliving that past experience all over again. It has no concept of time. It says, oh, this is happening. It's November. Start being sad.
Yeah.
And this is how it's gonna feel until you learn to process that, until that trigger gets desensitized and you no longer get bothered by that. So when there's people in our life, again, what are they triggering with you? Why do you keep getting frustrated? You feel like I'm working on this, but I still find I'm getting bothered, because what that's telling us is there's still something within you that you haven't let go of that keeps getting rehashed out. And that's the perfect time to work, because it's showing you. We just have to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
All right. So we got a lot of things going on here. So I want to say hello. So Dan says, Trump seems to bother a lot of people. He has money and power. I don't think he would be so bullying if he had a more Buddha Nelson Mandela mind, right?
Yeah,
I don't think
not.
Lincoln would lead like he does. What do we do when we don't like our leaders?
I think it's just don't focus or avoid focusing on what they're doing, because if it really bothers you, maybe ask yourself, why does this bother me? And there could be, something from your past when you were a child that he resembles someone from your past, because there's some things that he's doing that a lot of people are angry with, but it could be like, because of the way it makes you feel, probably resembles the past.
Eric says, oh shoot, is this the political side of the show? Maybe. We'll make this more, because we don't get too political, because again, we're talking about people, and how do we hear about these people? We're listening to them and what they're doing through the news.
Yeah, I don't really know what Trump is doing.
And how much information and factual information we're actually getting. So we have to be mindful of what you're reading, what you're listening to, because what's it doing? It's triggering you. So anything that finds it gets you upset, first things first is we need to avoid that. Stop watching news. Stop focusing on what other people are doing, and focus on what you need to do. It doesn't matter if it's a political person. It doesn't matter if it's your landlord. It doesn't matter if it's a family member. If they're doing something that's starting to bother you, allow them to be who they are, because you can't change that. The only person you can work on is yourself, and you focus on what you need to do. And
all that we need to do is focus on feeling good. And that's it. All right, let's see.
Oh God, Eric says, I'll start. He says, just kidding, sort of. But there's some other comments in there you guys can read. He says, and Dan says, yes, as my mother, spot on, Veronica.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that makes sense, that why you get triggered so much by what he's doing, because he resembles your mom, or certain things that he does that remind you of your mom, and that wasn't a good feeling. So then the thing is, like, can you change anything that he's doing? If you ask yourself, can I change his behavior? Can I change the things he's doing? Can I change any of that? If the answer is no, then it's like remove that focus, because you're just giving him more energy. It's like you're wasting your energy to focus on that, and it's not a good feeling. So it's like switch your focus onto maybe someone else who's doing good things, and it'll make you feel better by doing that.
And if your answer is yes to that, I can change him, then we have to look at your belief system, because you can't change anybody. Nobody can change until they choose that they want to. Because if you're trying to force change on other people, people will resist. And one thing I've heard, and it stuck with me, is we don't resist change. It's not like we don't like change, we can't change. We resist trying to be changed. And someone says we have to do this and you're forced to do something, that's when people get uneasy. So think about, again, the change that was forced on people with this whole COVID-19 situation. People couldn't do all the things that they wanted to anymore. And so that created a lot of hostility. We get into habits and we get used to it. But again, people don't like that. But whether you want to change your health, you want to change your relationship, you want to change your environment, you get to choose to change that. but you can't force other people to change until they choose to. And when they say, yes, I'm looking to change, then you can be there to help them, but they have to decide first.
Yeah.
All right. Dan says, yes, Aaron, right again. I need you both today. I need some lightness and refocus. And we all do at some points. I need, Veronica's there when I need to refocus, and other people are there. We have great friends and people we surround ourselves with. Eric Swanson's been there for us. I know we've been there for him. Like, we're all here to help each other. Yeah. And we have our moments. And it's like, if Veronica's down, I help her. When I'm down, she helps me. And when our daughter's down, we both help her. We're all going to go through our moment, and we need the right community to help bring us out of that. And so that's what we do. That's one of the reasons why we do the show, because we know that it helps at least one person in some way.
So what is, Eric was talking about a movie.
Well, the first movie he talked about let's go back up. There's a lot of comments. Thank you guys for your comments here. We were talking about the guy in the coffee shop. And he says, movie title, The Unmasked Guy, starring Michael Douglas. Again. And then going back later on, he says, he changed the title to The Unmasked Man, starring Donald Trump and Michael Douglas. And Michael Douglas. And Eric says, change sucks. I love credit cards and cash. Because I think he's talking about Bitcoin. Going to digital money. Yeah, it's like, we like the things we do, but sometimes there are changes that we have to make, and we might resist that. And even if it's change that we have to make, but it's when we decide, I'm willing to change this because I want my life to be better. I want things to be different. When we decide, that's when change can start to take place. But when we're like stubborn and don't want to change it, we're not practicing our patience, that's when we create all this chaos and nothing moves forward.
But when you're ready to change, be prepared to get uncomfortable, because the change will bring up things that are uncomfortable. And one thing that people are uncomfortable with a lot is emotions. But in order to get through something, there's an emotion that comes out, and a lot of times people aren't willing to face that. And in order to get through it, you have to deal with that emotion. But because of society, we're taught, crying is for the weak and things like that, but it's actually very healing. But people portray it as a weakness, but in reality, it's not.
Yeah, especially if someone you perceive has done you wrong in some of your life, and maybe one of the healing processes, you need to forgive that person to help you, whether you do it internally as a mental process or physically. As some people will resist it because, well, I don't have to because they did that, and they feel righteous in how they feel. I can't forgive them. They're angry. They did this to me. Well, that's a choice. That's not necessarily true. It's just how you choose to, because we've seen where there's people that have gone through very horrendous things and still practice forgiveness to the people that have abused them or done things to them. And we know it can be done, but it's your choice whether you choose to hang on to that or you choose to let it go.
Yeah. So I like Eric's question down here.
This one?
Yeah. Okay. So he says, can you each share a time when each of you were stubborn and needed to change, and how you got through it? Which of the many? I know, right? Let's see.
There's a long list here. Don't get me wrong. I've been stubborn with a few things.
For me, I like change, and I'm not afraid to express my emotions. So I feel like when things need to change, like it's easy for me to kind of go with the flow of change. But I think a big one was asking for help. Because I think that would be, because like I always wanted to do things on my own and work through my own issues on my own, but then asking for help for me was like vulnerable, and it seemed like, I guess, kind of like that weakness, like, in my mind it was like, I can't do it alone, now I need to ask for help. So I think that was probably something that was difficult, but I did it anyway. And it wasn't as bad as I thought. It's like that picture that we paint in our mind. Like we create this whole scenario and you kind of dwell on it for a little bit. And then, but when you finally ask for help, it's like, like you'd be surprised how many people are willing to help you.
Yeah. And if I look at me, I could have a long list of things here, but the one that comes to the top of my mind right now is anytime, like, again, we talk about making changes, and because Veronica's brought this up, is there's an idea we should do that, and I'm not sure, the fears, whatever that is, can come up of what's going to happen, the unknown, and staying stuck in the same place. And then I finally decided, well, I'm gonna change this because I've been dwelling on this for years. It's not working out for me very well. So okay, I'll take a chance and I go with it. And I say, hey, we should do this. And Veronica's, I told you that a year ago. And I think part of that is that stubbornness to listen and to, again, it's maybe trusting in other people and advice. And I think for me, it's been really trusting also in my own intuition and not following what I knew was right for me, because my past process was I always did things based on what other people would think. Would this look good in their eyes? Would they like this? Rather than what it is that I wanted to. When I changed that, and I did a lot of healing process on that, the work that we do is, and I started to finally do what I wanted to do. And I just did my own list. I said, okay, what would I love to do? I would love to do this. When I saw what I wanted to do, it was so freeing, and I felt like more energy. I felt happier. And that's how I tend to want to run things now. It's like, hey, if I get flustered by so much information coming at me, do this, do that. And there's so many techniques and things, ways you can run your business, way you can do your health. There's overwhelm because there's overload information. And I have to stop and say, what do I want to do? And what feels right for me? And then I go with what my intuition tells me. And it feels better on the inside for me.
Yeah. And another big one for me was when I was previously married. And, before that, like, I had my own house and I had, everything, I was doing well. I got married, and then, like, things happened, and then ended up losing a house, moved back to his house that he had as a rental. And I was unhappy, but I was like kind of trying to work things out. Like, okay, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Like, I didn't really have any money. I didn't have my house anymore. What about Violet? Because Violet was little at the time. But then I decided, well, I'm going to have to focus on what's going to make me happy. And, Violet will eventually adapt. And I ended up leaving, but trusting that everything was going to be fine. So I left without having a place to live, and just took, a few things and left everything behind, and said, like, I'm going to be fine. And it actually went, once I left, it was like a weight lifted off, and it's like, wow, like, I should have done this a long time ago. But that for me, that was a really big change, because then I had to think about the people around me as well. Me too, Eric.
Me too. The other question he has is, have you guys ever witnessed someone change right in front of you?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have. We've seen them change, like, right there. When we work personally with people, is they're coming in with a lot of issues, whether there's something in the relationship or something was really bothering them. And when we were able to uncover what they were holding on to and what that triggering mechanism was, they got a chance to just fully release all the emotion out of their system. And whether it's, feeling tension because maybe they were pent up anger or a lot of tears that just would come up for them. Yeah. And you can literally see them. And this is when we would do it in person, but now we do everything virtually. But when we're in person, you can see people literally, they would get hot. They would start to sweat because of all the energy that they're releasing. You see them coming from like tension. And we always knew when they released it because their body would start to relax. Their breathing would change. And you felt that sense of peace. Maybe they're a little taken out because they released a lot of energy. And what they would find is they would go home and not react to people the way that they used to.
Yeah.
And it was almost immediate because they were able to actually release everything they were holding on to. And not only that, if they were dealing with any physical pain because of that, all those pains would go away almost instantly.
Yeah. And we had people, a few people walk in hunched over, like using a cane because they could barely walk. And after doing the emotional clearing that we do, they were able to walk without a cane. And, it's just so many amazing stories that, people, after they release the emotions, they think, oh, something's physically wrong with me. But it was all their emotional stress that they were hanging on to. And they were able to, release that and then be able to walk again because, they were just holding on to so much.
Yeah. Eric said you guys should have your own show. You guys are awesome. Oh wait, we do have our own show. Dan says you both have really helped my spiritual healing because of your loving presence that is real.
Aww,
and see,
awesome.
and that's where we choose to be, is when we can work. The more we work on ourselves, the more that we can be of help to you and other people. Because if we don't work on ourselves, then we're not as helpful. And so the more that each of you that are watching, whether you're watching live or the replay, the more that you work on you and your internal process, your whole energy and vibration will shift, and you will start to help other people change in their life too, because they're going to see something within you, or they're going to feel something, and it's going to be like, they just really love being around you. And every time they're around you, they feel better. And when we start to feel better, we feel inspired, we feel empowered to do better in our life. Yeah.
So it's like radiate that love and light that's within each and every one of us, because we all have it. And Mr. Eric, they walk in 5'8" and they leave 6'2".
6'3", Eric.
That's funny. Yeah, but it's like, allow your inner light to shine, and don't be afraid to express that, because we all just really want love and peace and happiness, because like why be miserable?
Yeah. And do what you love, and create the life that you want to create. And that's what we're all about, is helping, is creating the life that we want to create, do it the way that we want, that makes us happy, and help you guys also to learn to create the life that you would love, that would make you happy and fulfilled. He says, yes, tune in with you will feel the love and healing. And you can be that light for other people. You all can be that light because you have it in you, but we all have work to do.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of work to do. We realize we're going to be doing that until the day we transition in this life. But the more we do it, the better we become each and every day.
Yeah.
And I hope this has been very helpful for all of you guys here on the show. And we've been talking about patience today, and a lot about emotional healing. But that's part of patience. Because once you let all the emotion go, then we can relax. We can be calm, and that's the key. So thank you for joining us. You guys have been watching Awaken Your Spirit. Again, we are your hosts. I'm Dr. Aaron Garcia.
And I'm Veronica Mendez Garcia. And we thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah. So again, we are live here every Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern. If you guys would like to get reminded when we go live on our show, make sure if you're watching here on Facebook, turn on the live notification here in the feed. If you're watching on YouTube, and then Eric Swanson Garcia, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on that bell notification so you know each time that we have a video posted up. So thank you guys for being here with us. We highly appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye.